My wife's company was hosting their annual office party, the kind where everyone pretends they're just coworkers while drinking like college freshmen and trying to impress upper management. I only agreed to go because my wife, Hannah, insisted. She said she wanted to show me off and introduce me to her new team, but the moment we walked in, I sensed something was off. The way a few male colleagues stared at her, the way whispers followed her as she passed. It was subtle, but obvious enough to tighten any husband's instincts. I stayed calm, though, letting her shine, smiling politely, holding her hand. I had no idea that one of those men, the one in the expensive suit with cheap confidence, was about to make the worst decision of his career. His name was Lucas, tall, loud, and reeking of fake charm. He was Hannah's department supervisor, a guy she'd mentioned before, never positively. "He's too friendly," she once said. Boundaries clearly weren't his strength. I thought she was exaggerating until that night. As music played and employees danced with half-empty glasses in their hands, Lucas approached us with a cocky grin and the swagger of a man who thought he owned the room. He greeted me with a limp handshake before turning to Hannah, letting his eyes roam over her in a way that made my blood pressure rise. Even then, I stayed composed, watching, assessing. Then it happened. While Hannah and I stood near a high-top table, Lucas, accidentally, brushed his hand across her lower back. Not once, but twice. The second time, he didn't even pretend it was a mistake. His palm lingered, sliding just a bit too low, his smile a little too smug. Hannah stiffened immediately, stepping forward to get away from him. Lucas didn't look embarrassed. He leaned closer and said, "You look incredible tonight," right in front of me. In that moment, everything went quiet. Not rage, not panic, just a cold, calculated stillness. A man touching my wife was one thing. Doing it deliberately and publicly demanded consequences. I didn't confront him. I didn't cause a scene. I didn't grab him, threaten him, or shout like a jealous husband. Men like Lucas expect that. They're prepared for emotional outbursts, but they're never prepared for calm silence. Instead, I smiled, placed my hand gently on Hannah's arm, and said, "Let's get some air." As we walked away, Lucas smirked like he'd won something. Hannah looked shaken, embarrassed, even apologetic. I squeezed her hand and whispered, "You didn't do anything wrong." She nodded. She knew the touch was intentional. So did I. And Lucas? He had no idea he'd just walked straight into his own downfall. Outside in the parking lot, Hannah told me everything. How Lucas had been flirting for months. How he stood too close. How she'd reported him once informally, only for HR to brush it off as miscommunication. That was the trigger. HR had protected him. His position protected him. The company protected him. But I didn't need anyone's permission to handle this. I kissed her forehead, told her to enjoy the rest of the night, and said I needed to make a phone call. She didn't ask questions. She trusted me. I walked back inside alone, planning quietly, observing everything I needed to bring a king-size downfall to Lucas's golden career. Most people don't realize how vulnerable a powerful man becomes when he thinks he's untouchable. Lucas bragged openly when he drank, about promotions he deserved, about connections he had, about how women in the office admired him. What he didn't realize was that two coworkers at the bar were already fed up with him. I struck up a conversation, played the friendly husband, and within minutes they were venting. Complaints about how Lucas mistreated employees, rumors of affairs with interns, stories of drunk behavior at last year's party. Every word strengthened what I was building. Then I approached a quiet woman seated near the corner. Hannah had mentioned her before. Melissa, the HR assistant. She wasn't drinking, laughing, or socializing. She looked exhausted. It didn't take long before the truth spilled out. HR had multiple complaints about Lucas, but management buried them. Why? Because Lucas's father was a major investor. That was all I needed. Money pressure had protected him. Government pressure was different. I thanked her and stepped away, typing everything into my phone. Dates, names, witnesses, incidents. By midnight, I had enough evidence to bring his world down. I left the party, sat in my car, and made one call to a close friend, an investigator with the State Labor Board. I gave him everything: harassment claims, HR negligence, abuse of power, inappropriate touching at a company event. He paused, then said, "This is enough to open a full investigation." "Good," I replied. "Start tomorrow." He agreed. And just like that, Lucas's career went on life support. The next morning, before Lucas even reached the office, investigators were waiting. HR was questioned, employees interviewed, complaints resurfaced, statements recorded, and by 2 p.m., Lucas was escorted out of the building publicly. Humiliated, his face pale as death. His father tried to intervene, but the investigation was already underway. His contract was suspended indefinitely. His access was revoked, his reputation destroyed. And the best part was that he still had no idea his downfall began the moment he placed his hand where it didn't belong. That evening, Hannah came home with wide, stunned eyes. "They fired him," she said. "The entire office is talking about it. People are saying investigators had everything on him." She looked at me carefully, suspicion flickering in her gaze. "Did you do something?" I wrapped my arms around her and whispered, "No one touches my wife." She didn't ask again. She didn't need to. She just held me tighter than she had in months, realizing that some men fight with fists, some fight with anger. But the most dangerous man in the room is the one who plans quietly and strikes at the perfect moment when the enemy least expects it.